Greetings, Zimbabwe. My name is Sean Moyo, 263 times, and today we are on Talking Politics. We are today blessed to have a young and firebrand politician, Triple C's Deputy Information Tsar, as it were, or Deputy Spokesperson. He deputizes Advocate Mahere. Gift Ostallos Siziba. Gift, welcome.
Thank you very much. Greetings to our viewers.
Perfect. Before we start, may you tell our viewers who is Gift Ostallos Siziba and what's your claim to fame?
Thank you very much. For us, politics is not about fame.
Right.
Yeah, it's about the objectives. My name is, you have said, is Comrade Gift Ostallos Siziba. I grew up in Bulawayo, in Itimelwe, and I'm a former student leader. I have been engaged in the struggle for transformation for the past decade, from the University of Zimbabwe, where I served in the student leadership as a student leader, and of course retired from the students' union to join the broader civic space in fighting as a human rights defender, and have been a member of the Democratic Alternative in our previous political formation, and of course have joined the new Benny Town Yellow Movement, where I'm serving as the national deputy spokesperson of the alternative to push the agenda of the citizens in this country.
Right. And also, in a nutshell, please tell our viewers a bit about Triple C. Just a bit. Obviously, you would have a lot to say, but just a bit in brief. If someone is to ask who is Triple C, how would you answer that?
Thank you. That's a very important question. The Citizens Coalition for Change is a movement born out of the collective consensus by the people of Zimbabwe across the entire social, political, and religious divide to have a citizens movement that is able to usher in the democratic breakthrough in Zimbabwe, informed by the historic challenges that the people of Zimbabwe are facing thanks to 42 years of ZANU-PF's failure and mismanagement of the economy, and the rising need for an alternative that pushes the agenda of ordinary people. Our politics in the traditional political economy in Zimbabwe was informed by the attention and agenda to attain political power without the objective to achieve the interest of the ordinary citizen. So the ordinary citizen has been historically been removed out of the politics in this country in terms of decision making, in terms of consultation, in terms of crafting of policies, in terms of distribution of wealth. That's why the majority of Zimbabwean people are living below the poverty data line, are earning a salary that is not proper for a functional economy. So the isolation of the citizen informed the philosophical belief of the need of a new political movement, not a political party, because a political party is narrow, a political party is limited, a political party is pushed by the agenda and intention to attain political power, but a movement is pushed by the collective aspiration and wishes of those that are part and parcel of the movement. So it's a movement that is informed and driven by citizens. So in terms of its decision making, in terms of its objective, in terms of its philosophical and ideological standpoint, it's about putting the citizens back at the center of decision making, so that the agenda and objective of governance, so that the agenda and objective of politics in this country is about, at the end of the day, transforming the concrete lives of ordinary people.
Right. You inferred a bit there about the Triple C being formed by people from various religious backgrounds.
Yes.
And only just recently, there was a post which I would almost term quite controversial from your leader, Chamisa, where he put out a post speaking on religion, that there are some religions that may not necessarily be pure. That was the implication. Some people assumed it was an attack on traditional African religion. And in the political context, and also in your desire to particularly penetrate the rural strongholds of the ruling party, and these are governed by traditional chiefs generally, they have a huge influence. How do you think that feeds into probably what may be a lack of trust by traditional leaders towards your leader?
I think that there has been abuse, and it happens. Our opponent tries very much to try and misinterpret our communication, misinterpret our statements, and abuse whatever comes out from the alternative. And I will help Zimbabweans and every stakeholder of the Citizens Coalition to understand these facts. Number one is that the president's tweet, I think, which you are referring to, was a quotation from the Bible. And the Constitution of Zimbabwe is very clear about, our respect and appreciation of, these particular religious beliefs, particularly the freedom of religion. So the first fact is that it's not true that the president instituted anything or castigated a certain religious or traditional sect of society, but the president, as per his personal tradition and religious persuasion, posted a verse from the Bible, a verse which our opponent would have wanted to abuse. And the second fact is that, which in terms of what we stand for, so that we clear the air. Number one, we believe in the freedom of conscience. As a citizens movement, we are conscious that everyone, this is a movement for every Zimbabwean people, irregardless, and we've stated this fact before, is irregardless of their religious standpoint. So whether you belong to the AFM, you belong to the Roman Catholic, you belong to the SDA, you belong to the African, traditional religion, the ATR, you belong to any particular persuasion, ideologically, again, and of course, in terms of backgrounds, whether you belong to a certain race, you belong to a certain tribe, you belong to a certain historic political belonging. This is a movement, and I think you have seen how some comrades who belong to certain political parties have been coming out to support this movement. And I don't think that we've made it very clear that this is a movement for every Zimbabwean citizen. So we have no mandate, we have no inspiration, we have no objective to try and stop people because of their, religious or political or ethnic or racial, persuasion. That is their own private. I belong to a certain church, the Apostolic Faith Mission. Some belong to other churches, but we meet together on the agenda and cause for change and transformation. That is the collective aspiration. That is the collective central objective that binds us together. The objective to attain political power with the objective to transform the concrete lives of ordinary people. Once the lives of people are able to live better, once soldiers get a salary above the poverty line, once police officers get their dignity back, once teachers get a salary above PDL, once journalists get their freedom to do their duty without interference, once political parties are able to gather and exercise their freedom of assembly and freedom of speech without intimidation and harassment, once human rights are able to hold government to account, that is what makes us happy. That is our objective. Whether I come from a certain background, it has no influence. It has no impact on the decision or my participation in the citizen coalition.
Okay, perfect. And moving on to the next point, you transformed from the MDC alliance, which was one of the versions of the MDCs that you belonged to for all these years. And obviously, all these years you stood for change, as you had put it, and also you had a lot of things that you were pursuing in the MDC then. Now that you have changed cloth, as it were, in identity, you are now Triple C. What's the difference between what you stood for previously as the MDC and going to the MDC Alliance and now? Is it a case of old wine in new bottles, or it's new wine? How is it new wine when only just 2-3 months back you were the MDC Alliance and there was a bit of a struggle for a name there before eventually you decided to transform into Triple C? So what's the market difference between the MDC that you stood for all these years and the Triple C?
Thank you very much, my brother, for this question, because it's been a discourse in the political market in this country, and I hope that we are able, as an alternative, to clear the air on that question. The MDC, in its various forms and facets, is part of our past. I was part and parcel of the MDC. I exercised my freedom of de-association with the MDC and joined a new, and underlined the word new, political movement in the Zimbabwean body politic, the Citizens Coalition for Change, whose agenda and objective is bringing back the citizen at the center of the politics and the economy of our country. This movement, this vehicle, is new in the following respect: both quantitatively and qualitatively. Is a new political movement. But we are conscious of the historic participation of certain members. And maybe they are the majority, maybe they are not the majority, but they were part and parcel of a certain political movement, the MDC, as was founded in 1999. The reason why I decided, as Comrade Ostallos, to de-associate with the MDC, as was founded in 1999, it was convinced to me, beyond any shadow of political doubt, that it is no longer a viable alternative to attain the objective as was defined in September 1999. And that's why I joined Advocate Nelson Chamisa and Zimbabwean citizen in a new political movement, which is new in the following respect. Number one, at least in terms of the law. The law requires one to register a political party by registering their intention to participate in an election as per the electoral law in the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. So that on its own is a sign that this is new. Number two, the name on its own, the Citizens Coalition for Change, was not in the political lexicon in the Zimbabwean political market. So it's a new political movement that has registered its entry into the politics of this country. Number three, this new movement has a new color, has a new leadership, has a new structure, has a new strategy, has a new ideology, has new policies, new values. For me, this, in terms of form and character and content, is convincing enough for me, not just as a member of the Citizens Coalition, but as a student of modern scientific thought, that this for me proves scientifically that this is a new political movement. Yes, with people that were part and parcel of certain political formations, whether it's the MDC, it's Mabamba Gusile Don, it's ZAPU, this is a new movement. That's why we've got a roadmap now, so that I'm able to help you on a possible next question, or what people don't understand. That we've got a structured roadmap that will allow us to engage with various stakeholders, to engage with various social forces that form this movement, to try and be able to come out with a succinct program of action, to come up with our policies, to come up with our blueprints, to come up with all the answers to the material political questions that are needed to be answered for a proper, legitimate opposition movement that is on its path to form the next government.
Perfect. And I'll pick up two questions from your last statement, right? The first one is on the issue of your party policy, as it were. And secondly, about your structures. At the previous rallies that you just held towards the by-elections, Advocate Chamisa stated that there is currently no leadership in the CCC. He is only a standby leader or an interim leader leading up to a congress at some point, right? But if we look back a few years back, right, you had a congress that you held in Wales, and your party elected a leadership that had complete from the president right down to everyone else. What happened to that leadership, and was the dissolution a matter of consensus, or it was just seen as necessary by the leadership?
Thank you. Look, I speak on behalf of the future, on behalf of the current. I don't speak on behalf of the past. For example, I will, as maybe as an observer, speak about the MDC, and so forth. But my mandate speaks about the new, speaks about the future. In terms of what we stand as the leadership, we've made it very clear and communicated that look, the leadership that some people want to refer to, the leadership of the past, a vehicle that we belong to as far as leaders, is that past. We have joined a new political movement, whom we have said the caretaker leadership is these particular people that are going to do, the champion-in-chief, African Nelson Chamisa, would get a mandate from the people. That's why we're doing our processes. What we have not done, and we have done it deliberately, and is informed by our historic experiences as politicians, is that we are dealing with one of the most brutal, with one of the most, one of the most well-oiled machinery of dictatorship in this country, whose objective has always been, if you look at the decimation of Zambia after independence, the objective was to create a de facto one-party state. So it has always been in the heart, it has always been in the mind of our opponent to create a one-party state in Zimbabwe. And we have been opposed in our various formations. For example, when I was in the Students' Union, when I was in the civil society, as a human rights defender, as a matter of principle and conviction, and as a Democrat, is that we cannot have a one-party state in Zimbabwe. That is a cause, a principled cause that we've fought against for the past 1 decade of our existence. So we know the type of enemy that we're dealing with. So what we will not do, and that we have not done because of strategic necessity, is not to announce, one, our strategy and our roadmap, but stakeholders, social forces, critical elements, our members, our supporters are conscious of that political reality. That's why we've said we come up with a roadmap that answers all these questions in due time. But what you can't do, because we know, of how our opponent has always abused courts, have always weaponized the law against the alternative, and use it to assault and infiltrate and attack and dismantle the opposition. So we are conscious of that reality. That's why what we can't do is to put our cards on the table. We keep them in our political chest, focus on what must be done, galvanize the base, communicate with our people, collect the necessary data, collect the necessary interventions that will collectively define this creature in our launch. Because the launch now will unveil this creature. What we have done in the immediate is to announce that, look, we've got a baby. Here is the baby, right? See it, right? The baby is male, right? But we've also given the baby the name because the baby has been conceived. But what we have not done now is to say, okay, how do we clothe this baby? How do we define this baby in terms of his character, in terms of his ideological standpoint? So to answer again the discourse, I've seen that there was a discourse from other sections of society to say your ideological persuasion is an afterthought, not a forethought. The ideological disposition of a progressive movement is both an forethought and an afterthought. Because the forethought informed us and informed the collective leadership, the collective citizenry, to say this is the type of vehicle that we want, and gave the caretaker leadership the mandate to deal with that particular movement. And then the afterthought now is galvanizing and collecting this important data from the people to say, okay, this is where we are, informed by our realities, informed by our international politics. What is the best and collective aspiration that will define us in terms of our vision, in terms of our mission, in terms of our objective? And then once that process is done, which is done in the roadmap, a launch then communicates in black and white, succinctly with clarity and precision, to the people of Zimbabwe, to the world at large, to the African community, to other players, to say, now, this is the baby. And it is introduced in total and in finality to the political market in this country.